Some headlines you didn't expect to see this week as 49ers owner Jed York arrested in Ohio and NFL players going back to college. What is going on?
This is Locked On's NFL Six-Pack. 6 bold takes from 2 guys who just flat out know football. NFL experts Matt Williamson and Brian Peacock bring pure NFL talk. Great takes, no fluff, just honest football talk. Crack one open. It's NFL Six-Pack on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome to the NFL Six-Pack. Brian Peacock alongside Matt Williamson breaking down the 6 biggest stories going on right now in the NFL as we head toward preseason game number 3, the preseason finale for NFL teams preparing for the 2026 season. And what a weird offseason it has been. And to be honest with you, it's a pleasure to be somebody that covers the San Francisco 49ers, which I do on the Locked On 49ers podcast daily here on the Locked On Podcast Network, Matt. And we're going to get to some other stories and some players, early draft picks that have been waived. And this story about a judge allowing players to go back to college that have been in camps. Like, this is just some weird stories going on in the NFL. None stranger. And to be honest with you, social media, things like Twitter, were invented for days like yesterday when something comes down with a mugshot in a famous person like Jed York, who is the managing owner, the CEO. I think he is officially the owner, and it's a DeBartolo York family. It's still in the Eddie DeBartolo family, and he had to sell the team after winning a bunch of titles because of other stuff, and was forced to sell the team, but he kept it in the family. His sister's son is Jed York, who now is the owner / CEO of the San Francisco 49ers. And the headline came down right about the time we were going to record yesterday, so we didn't talk about it yesterday, and got the facts now and got all this together, Matt. And the headline that I first saw from a local Ohio newspaper was that Jed York arrested in East Palestine.
Yeah.
And you're more familiar with the Youngstown, Ohio area than I am. And I was like, what is Jed York doing in Palestine?
Yes.
Country that got him arrested. Like, I was, what? That is not the kind of headline you expect to wake up to. And I realized, I think it's Palestine, right? East Palestine.
It's not that close to me. I don't know, but yeah, it's not a booming metropolis.
Is a town in Ohio.
Yeah.
And part of a prostitution sting, apparently. Jed York, the owner of the 49ers, was arrested and pled down from prostitution charge to a disorderly conduct with criminal tools. So 2 misdemeanors, 1 day of jail each. He spent a day in jail and then time served. So essentially the whole thing's done, and he just spent a weekend in jail and paid a fine. And now it's over, and now he's got a mugshot that everyone is going to put on T-shirts and will follow him the rest of his life as he owns the San Francisco 49ers. What a crazy story, man.
A very crazy story. And a little background is, you mentioned the DeBartolo family. They made their fortunes before buying the Niners in Youngstown, Ohio, with malls, when malls were like just starting and growing and nobody knew what a mall was. And then they bought the Niners. So I think there's serious like Youngstown connections through the family, which isn't far from me. It's like 45 minutes or so north west. But I am not familiar with East or West Palestine or whatever.
East. Not East. West Palestine, completely different thing.
Completely different thing. I don't know what to say about this. I mean, can the NFL, I guess I'm asking you as a Locked On Niners host, do you know if the NFL can take further action? I mean, they always can.
I believe they can. Owners and front office people are part of the conduct policy for the NFL. And I imagine it can be swift because they don't have to wait for court proceedings or an investigation. Like, the whole thing's done. He pled no contest and already did the time. He did his weekend in jail.
So how I can't remember the Robert Kraft situation and what the ramifications were.
I don't think he ended up getting hit by the league because
I didn't think so either.
It was the charges ended up being dropped, I believe, is what happened.
Okay.
So the legal part played out, and then at that time the charges were dropped, and I think Nothing ended up happening, and you have to have some pretty significant, it's different for the league to come down on an owner than it is for a player, even though they're under the conduct policy.
And that was my next question is what do you do to the owner? They have gobs and gobs of money. I mean, a $10,000 or $50,000 fine isn't going to be a dent, but you're going to fine them $1 million or $2 million or $8 million or $1 billion or what? I mean, or do you take draft picks away or
could be a number of things. And I would imagine at the very least from his own organization and himself and his family. And apparently he was actually in the middle of getting a divorce. He filed for divorce just a couple months ago in May during the spring. So he no doubt he'll step away, and I have a feeling that he'll either speak immediately and then step away for like a year, or he'll just be gone for a year and we won't hear from Jed York very much until next spring or summer at some point, potentially. I think that'll be the biggest thing as he steps away. What the statement is, and there's a press conference already today that, Kyle Shanahan was going to speak to the media. So the question is, does Kyle Shanahan speak on it himself, or do they put somebody else in front of Kyle Shanahan first so he can talk about football when he hits the podium at 49ers practice?
Well, it reminds me, that guy got in a pretty decent car accident and all the stars are banged up. I mean, your Locked On Niners feed has to be on fire right now.
I can't imagine covering any other football team. This is crazy. The electrical substation. There's been like the Brandon Ayuk weird stuff.
Right.
Kyle Shanahan. By the way, they did a lot better job not getting the Kyle Shanahan car accident stuff out there. It was 2 weeks before that was reported. Mm-hmm. They were all over the Jed York stuff as far as the local media goes. But I guess in East Palestine, it's
word travels quick. Huh?
Someone with with that connection of that family shows up in the police blotter Monday morning. Essentially, was what happened, and you see that and you're like, okay, we got a story here. And by the way, so one part of the story is that this whole thing, this bust happened at a trailer park.
That's what I heard too. Yeah.
And the actual owner or whoever runs the trailer park came out with a statement and was like, no, that didn't happen. They even want to distance themselves from the Jed York and an NFL billionaire owner. They're like, no, this is just where he pulled over when the cops came up behind him. And
okay.
Just like it didn't happen here. So like they even want to distance themselves from this whole situation at this mobile home
fine
community.
People in that trailer park going, hey,
why is our reputation being besmirched here? That's not what happened. So yeah, just a wild scenario for the 49ers, and just makes everything more difficult for the organization, and changes things. And who knows? There's been really very vague statements from the league. They're investigating it. From the 49ers, they're like, we have no comment on the situation. It's done, but so they're going to have to comment more, because that's not going to cut it for the media involved. They're going to be asking questions, and I don't think Kyle Shanahan wants to be answering those questions. So somebody is going to be answering questions today, and we'll find out what that statement is from the 49ers. That should be better than the statement they put out there. But I guess it could come down to another 49ers ownership change at some point, right? Could it be like that serious where they end up being like, look, we can't have this. I mean, but then you saw what happened with Robert Kraft in that situation. I bet nothing ends up happening major, maybe another fine. It's probably not, because this is a personal thing more than a team thing. So I don't think you can start going to draft picks, and they would want to hit his personal pockets more than the team's pockets, right? So that's where I see this is not affecting the Niners as much as it affects the DeBartolo York family.
That's kind of what I thought too. It's kind of embarrassing, the Shield. We got to do something, but I don't know that the Niners organization deserves losing a 4th-round pick or something goofy out of it. I think that would be totally unfair. I don't know if you had those questions, because sometimes it's harder to know than you got to be pretty close to the team. Not that you're not with the Niners, but do you know what the ownership structure is? Because like in Pittsburgh, Mr. Rooney basically has the proverbial office at the end of the hall, and all big things go through him. And where other ones are, maybe they're not in the building every day, or not hands-on, or 4 or 5 people are in charge. Like every building's different. They're all different, separate, successful corporations.
It's a little convoluted, and Jed York has been less involved, but he's for sure the figurehead of the entire thing. And I think he actually legitimately does now through I think they're like ownership change. Like he is the main owner, like 80%. And then there's some private investors that got in the last year. So one of whoever's buying the Seahawks right now is a minority investor in the 49ers and has to share those sales too before the Seahawks sale can go down. So
which isn't that uncommon in the league, by the way.
Yeah. And it used to be Jed's mom and dad, which is Denise DeBartolo York and John York, her husband, were the ones that were kind of running this. And they handed it over to Jed, who was the CEO first. Now he's the official owner. I think he does officially own 80% or so of the team, but he's not really around that much. And then Parag Marathe was the cap guy, and he just left to go run the soccer division because the 49ers own a couple of soccer teams now, Leeds United in the Premier League and another one. And so he went to run that. So actually the structure in the building has also changed this offseason. And there's a new, vice president of football, whatever. And then there's John Lynch. And so, and I imagine this would just move ownership a little further away. And it's basically the John Lynch, Kyle Shanahan, and, Kwesi came back from the Minnesota Vikings. He's got a job in the building now too. So I imagine he's going to have a big say going forward. So yeah, it's kind of up in the air a little bit and a little convoluted who's really in charge of the entire organization now.
Yeah. And there's more to it than football, obviously. Like I directly report to someone who's in charge of all the Steelers.com, basically, and
then there's concerts at the stadium, and there's so many other business happenings that are involved here. Yeah, exactly.
It's not just who we trotting out there to beat the Colts,
Right. Next, there's actually some more notes with the 49ers injury related. An injury related wave of a former high draft pick in Arizona, but the Cards do get a player back, which is very important to their defense. And what is going on with this story of NFL players in training camp get to go back to school next year and play college football? We'll dive into all of that next. Today's episode of NFL Six Pack is brought to you by Odoo. Running a business shouldn't feel like you're trying to connect a bunch of systems that were never designed to work together. One app for accounting, another for inventory, another for sales, and somehow none of them talk to each other. That's where Odoo comes in. Odoo is an all-in-one business management software that brings every part of your business together in one powerful platform. From sales and accounting to inventory and marketing, everything works in one place. Odoo is one platform to manage, grow, and scale your business. The best organizations know that success isn't just about talent. It's about everyone working together toward the same goal, and that's true in sports, just like it is true in business. And one thing that really stands out in how any organization works and gets everyone pulling in the same direction, it's not just about one great player or coach that you lean on, especially in football. It's about a coordinated effort across the entire organization that makes it successful. Great organizations win because operations matter, and that's why you should get Odoo. Try for free today at odoo.com/lockedon. That's odoo.com/lockedon. All right, let's keep the six-pack rolling here. Just one quick note on the 49ers that are kind of getting healthy now at the right time. So as far as on-field football stuff goes, Christian McCaffrey back at practice this week. Yeah. Apparently his 2-week bout with quote-unquote tightness, they say, was just a planned thing to get him off his feet for a couple of weeks, which is weird why they would have to lie about it. Mm-hmm. I don't understand that part of it. Just say, yeah, he's getting some vet time off, and everyone would be like, yep, that's a good idea. Right. So that makes sense. What's wrong with that? I don't know why you have to lie about it and put tightness on there unless they're even hiding an actual injury, which would be super weird. But who knows with Christian McCaffrey? He once snuck off to Germany and got some treatments that, that he didn't want anybody to know about. And someone noticed him on the airplane or something. It was like, wait, aren't you supposed to be in Santa Clara? You're not in Germany right now?
Germany, yeah.
But those treatments seem to work for Christian McCaffrey, by the way, who ended up having 450 touches last year. And they have said that he's going to, be limited a little bit more in his touch percentage of the offense, which is why they drafted Kayshon Boutte in the 3rd round, who's looked very good, and he joined practice and had his first preseason game look very good last week. Yeah, George Kittle is off of the PUP list, so he's not going to miss the first 4 weeks and start the season on PUP. So we know that. Still a question whether or not he's going to make the trip to Australia. I kind of feel like the right thing to do would be give him that extra 10 days and not make that trip. Coming off an Achilles, it's still really early. He'd only be 8 months out from an Achilles injury. It's usually 9 to 12 months, even if he's ahead of schedule, and even if it's the good kind of Achilles where it was a little bit higher of a tear than lower, which apparently is better. He's a maniac.
I thought about what a disadvantage playing that game is because all these guys are recovering from injury.
Right.
Don't take him to Australia. I mean, if
Bosa's kind of just working on the side right now, but he'll be back probably for week 1 and ready to go. And, at minimum, you're going to get Kittle for week 2 probably. But he'll probably try to play in week 1. They're going to have to hold him back, I'm sure, is what's going to end up happening there. But overall, pretty healthy for the 49ers going to this thing, aside from losing Ricky Pearsall. But Dejon Stribling looks really good to pick up some of that slack.
Yeah, things are trending quite good, owner aside.
Yep, absolutely.
Right.
And so that's that with the San Francisco 49ers. Here's one with the Arizona Cardinals, and a former very high draft pick in Trey Benson is now getting waived, but he's getting waived with an injury designation. So before fans get super excited and say, wow, this is a 3rd round pick, a running back in the 2024 draft who got waived, I want my team to pick him up. He's got an injury designation, which means if he's not claimed by any team, he actually reverts back to Arizona's injured reserve and would be done for the season. So there might be, and this is like old knee, this is kind of very much like the Ricky Pearsall thing with the 49ers. This is an old knee injury from last year that is still not healthy. And so, the Cardinals need to do something here and clear up a roster spot, and they're very deep at running back. And so Trey Benson has really just never had a chance to get his career on track.
I mean, you think about their backfield, Love, who's currently dealing with an injury, Algier, who they gave decent money to before they even drafted Love. Connor's still good despite his age. Benson, I still had hope for, although nothing's really gone right in his career. And then they have like the DeMarcados and those type of dudes we've been seeing in preseason. I don't know that you need, again, back to team building. It's not the way I would build a team if I was one of the worst teams in the league, but so be it. I would assume, like let's say Jacksonville was interested in Benson. Who's going to pick him up with the injury designation? Yeah,
you would have to be able to, you maybe claim him. And maybe this is why they did this early. So now it's not in that 48-hour window. So it gives him a chance. He can go get a physical, and then you can be like, oh, no, we're actually not. We can't claim this guy. And so I think that would be able to be, something that you could, if it's only half a season, you might want to deal with it. And then maybe he makes your roster, then you put him on IR to return or something like that, because teams can do that. But
I think he's a free agent after the year too. It's a second round pick. It's been
this is year 3.
It's been
this is year 3. So he has one more year.
Okay, one more. Yeah. Him and Brooks have one more year. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Are you just real quick? You mentioned Brooks. I feel like teams are going a little bit too, or not teams, but fantasy folks. I heard them getting really excited about Jonathan Brooks.
Oh, big time.
Pushing him way up the draft boards. And
because there's a Chuba injury right now too, and now Brooks is going through the roof. And
I wouldn't touch Brooks, especially at the price, to expect him to be RB1 for a full season. No way.
See, I kind of take the other approach in that in those mid rounds in fantasy, I don't want to come in second in my fantasy league, so I'm just swinging for home runs left and right. And if he can become the guy and who we thought he is, great. I'll just draft like extra running backs and don't count on him, and whatever I get out of him is gravy. But people are drafting him like an RB3 though. I'm not sure I'm in that category. He's not cheap.
I think hype gets a little weird in the fantasy community.
It does
this month, and then you get some wild stuff happening where in the past, like a few months ago, it's like, oh yeah, I love where Stribling's getting drafted. I'll take him. I love where Jonathan Brooks is getting drafted. I'll take him. And then after the hype machine hits, it's like, oh, that's actually the other side of things. I don't have him on any team because you're expecting him to be this thing that has to go perfect for him to be there.
It definitely roller coasters way too much. Like Genty, remember he got a little bit banged up and he might miss a couple games. Well, he's going from a second round turn guy to like a 4th round pick. I'm like, that seems pretty drastic if he's only going to miss 2 games.
There's some good news though for the Arizona Cardinals, and they are getting their best, one of their best defensive players, but it's certainly their best pass rusher back. Josh Sweat has been activated from the PUP, and
good.
I wonder if there's still potential for him to get traded. Maybe it's a trade deadline name that we'll keep hearing, but Josh Sweat, at least for now, back to practice, and looks like he's on track to start the season.
I'm going to predict that Sweat and Max Crosby are not on their same team after the trade deadline, if not sooner. I think they both get moved between now and the deadline.
Post Halloween, neither one of them is on their current team,
and could get traded next week.
Oh, okay.
If I'm Detroit or Chicago or something like that.
A number of teams. I mean, how many teams couldn't use like a really good pass rushing defense?
Oh man, I thought Sweat was on the precipice of getting traded a month or so ago. Some people in the know said there's deals in place. Maybe they're just waiting for him to get cleared.
Next, let's talk about the trade the Texans made to replace their injured wide receiver, and then this ruling that has NFL players going back to play college football. Next. Today's episode of NFL Six Pack brought to you by Indeed. When workplace chaos hits and you need the right hire, Indeed Sponsored Jobs helps connect employers with candidates who match specific needs like skills, certifications, and location. So less time gets spent searching and more time gets spent finding the right fit. People are finding quality hires all the time on Indeed right now, in fact. And in the minute that I'm talking to you about Indeed, companies like yours have made 27 hires on Indeed in a minute, according to Indeed data worldwide. And we know how this works. And again, it's like sports. One great addition can have a ripple effect on everyone around them. When you find someone who brings the right skills, attitude, and experience, makes the entire group better. That's why finding qualified candidates matters so much, and why tools like Indeed Sponsored Jobs can help make that process easier. So spend less time searching and more time interviewing quality candidates who will help you cut through that chaos with Indeed Sponsored Jobs. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to help get your job the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. Just go to Indeed.com/podcast right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed here. Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? This is a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs. This is sort of a team player connection that we'd made in the past. It just makes too much sense because there's been talk that there's been an opportunity for teams to trade for Kayshon Boutte, wide receiver from the New England Patriots. And then Jaden Higgins gets injured and is done for the year for the Houston Texans. And it was a match that we had talked about once this injury happened. And now a trade has happened. And Kayshon Boutte is on his way to the Houston Texans in exchange for safety Jalen Reed and a 2028 7th round pick. Tom Pelissero breaking that one after getting canned from his old job. My favorite insider is Tom Pelissero too. So I like to see Pelissero still get one over on the tag team that has become Schefter and Ian Rappaport. So score one for Tom Pelissero there. And Kayshon Boutte, the only question I have really with this for the Texans is they're both kind of the big outside X receivers.
Yeah, I was thinking that too.
So how do they work together? I'm still in on Jalen Knoll potentially as that fantasy player I'd be targeting potentially as a how about Williams on the Patriots as a sleeper in your fantasy leagues too?
Yeah, I think this Kyle Williams is a guy I really like, and I think this certainly opens the long-term door for him to at least be the field stretcher, learn the nuances of the position, and I think he deserves more action. So that's a great guy to bring up. Boutte's a little redundant with the downfield guys, but I do think Knoll is very attractive as a chain mover. He's a lot bigger than people think. I mean, he's almost 200 pounds. He's not 175-pound slot-only dude. He's a pretty well-built player. And they wanted Higgins to operate out of the slot and move him around. Nico's going to get so many targets. I mean, I'm not sure I can move him up high enough on my wide receiver list for fantasy.
And I think Boutte is a nice player for the team and someone that can hit the big play, but volume's probably not going to be there for your fantasy team. But
no,
I think it's a nice fit and a great trade for them for sure. Even if if their skill set kind of overlaps a little bit with Nico Collins there. But
he's that sacrificial X that Matt Harmon always talks about. Stretch the field and I think that's a nice pickup for a 7th round pick and a safety I hardly know anything about.
Yep, I like it.
Yeah, and you got to pay him. I mean, I'm sure the Patriots want the contract out, but
how about this story? And yesterday,
I don't understand it, and it makes me crazy.
I don't understand it either. I'll try to explain it the best I can from this article on 3 Football. Reports that now there's 16 because 15 players are going to potentially join. Daquan Wright was the first one who is transferring from the Cleveland Browns to the LSU Tigers.
Yes.
And
he's already gone through the combine and done everything, gotten paychecks.
He's gotten paychecks. He's played in preseason games. So Daquan Wright was the first one reported this weekend that is going from he went from Ole Miss to the Cleveland Browns, played in preseason games, is now going back to LSU to play for Lane Kiffin's LSU Tigers. And now it looks like former LSU edge rusher Jack Pyburn is among 15 more players who were granted a temporary restraining order against the NCAA on Thursday. So basically returning for the 2026-2027 college football season with a 5th year of eligibility. So the group of players that can do this is somewhat small. Pyburn is on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers camp roster and actually had 2 sacks in their last preseason game. Essentially it's players that played only 4 seasons of college football and now have a chance to go get a 5th year and go back. And it applies to essentially only 16 guys here. And a lot of these names, potentially weren't going to make rosters anyway. And so I see why the players would want to do it. But
I'm sure they get NIL out of it too, right?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And then they get a chance to go through the draft process again and maybe have a better season.
So just funny side note from my life. I mean, when I was the recruiting assistant at Pitt, every morning I would go get a bin of VHS tapes that I could hardly carry, some of which were filmed by dad in the seats or, who knows who to get film games. And you couldn't even find the player you wanted, let alone tell if he's good. I can't even imagine signing up for NFL Pro and watching the Patriots as the recruiting assistant at LSU being like, we'll take that defensive end. Right. I think he could probably play for us.
So I just said they would go back to the draft process, but will they? They've already gone through the draft process. That's how you enter the NFL. So does that mean you just become a free agent after the college season's over and then you can sign immediately? How does that
I'm not certain, but my impression is I think they do the whole draft process again and do the combine again and can get drafted. Wouldn't you be ticked if you drafted a dude and he reneged on you?
I did see a report, and I don't remember who reported it, but somebody asked a team and a GM or scouts, and was like, is this something that's going to ding these players come the draft process next year? And they said, basically, it's something we won't forget about them for sure. Okay. But at the same time, they weren't going to make a team anyway. So what do they care? I'm going to go undrafted again for the second time.
If I'm them, I'm all over it.
Yeah.
And I don't know that I'd hold it against them if I'm next year's drafters. So I don't know a ton about college football, and I've ignored it on purpose other than draft. I just care about the draft. But my new co-host with the Steelers is a huge WVU fan and loves college football, so I pick his brain all the time. And he basically told me the NCAA does not have much power anymore. The judges just overrule the NCAA all the time.
Well, it's crazy.
Like the Trinidad Chambliss stuff and all that.
They just keep bouncing around to different states and different judges, and eventually one is going to give them the
one went to LSU
they want, and so then they go to a new court. And now the NCAA is currently waiting on the U.S. Court of Appeals for the 10th Circuit to rule on its stay in a different suit that happened in Colorado that does not allow our players to enter the portal, which spurred the other ruling in Louisiana, which is the latest ruling. So it doesn't even make any sense as it gets ridiculous. And at some point, the NCAA has to have some control over its own body.
And I mean, just for draft reasons, I don't understand eligibility anymore. There's all these 6-year guys and transfers and blah, 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 blah. And I just think
what's crazy is the NCAA went from having too much power to having no power.
I think that's what's going on from what I gather. Because it just, you ruled against me, I'll just go find a lawyer to take it to this court, then the next court, and then this judge, I'm not saying he did, but this judge maybe went to LSU and decided we'll take a defensive end from the NFL because he's probably pretty good.
Oh, geez. Anyway,
I don't know.
It's clear as mud. Yeah. It's strange. And from a fan standpoint, you want to know what the rules of the thing are that you're watching, first of all. So the more things change, the more it's like, what is the sport that I'm looking at, And
I think about the kids too. Like, daddy went to Pitt, and I grew up a Pitt fan as a young pup, and then I fall in love with the dude, and he transfers after a year, and you're starting quarterbacks now playing against you. Like, I don't know. I have mixed feelings about all of it.
Or if you're like 18 and you go to college, you're a walk-on, and some 25-year-old 7th-year senior gets to take your spot, and it's like, dude,
right.
This is for kids. This isn't for 30-year-old 8-year seniors to like be semi-professionals. This is supposed to be an amateur sport where someone can, walk on and make a football team potentially.
Mesidor should be pretty good. He's 5 years older than some of the dudes playing against him, or what's his face? Tyler Shuck. Like, yeah, you should be. You've been in college forever. You should have like 2 doctorate degrees.
Yeah, it's less impressive. We talked about this a lot in the draft process. Like when you're 24, beating up on a 19-year-old, that's less impressive than a 19-year-old beating up on a 19-year-old or a 24-year-old.
I've told this story, but I was a new scout sitting there in might even been WVU, in dark room with a bunch of other scouts, and we're watching WVU, I think it was them, against BYU at the time. And this old grizzled scout with like chew spit all over him, typical looking guy, has done his whole life. He's like, Sonny boy, that they're playing against guys that are 24 and 25 years old on that BYU offensive line. I'm like, I hadn't thought of that. Like some of them have families.
Multiple children, and you're out there playing college football against a 19-year-old. Yeah,
we played against Phillip Rivers actually in my first ever bowl game. He had kids at that point, not as many as he does now, but he
didn't need extra years like on a mission to
he just
either.
Did it all natural, right?
Prolific, man.
Good work.
Thanks everybody for tuning in. We'll be back tomorrow. Get your questions in for this week's mailbag, comments, topic ideas at BD Peacock, at Williamson NFL, or in the YouTube comments. And please hit that subscribe button. And back tomorrow right here, the NFL Six Pack.